Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are coming from. Thank you so much for tuning in to another fun and exciting AMA. This is Fortunate coming at you with Land of Crypto Calls. We are here for an AMA with NumisMe, and we have Mr. available here for us to tell us a little bit about the project, how the team came together, and where they got this name from.
Right on. Yeah, fortunate. Thank you. I feel so fortunate to be here. I'm sure you've never heard that one before, but yeah, no, thanks for that great intro. And yeah, we're super excited to be part of your community. So yeah, I'm Mr. I'm project lead at NumisMe. And we also have here as part of the team, Aaron. He's on the community side. So NumisMe is, well, first, like, where did the name come from, right? It's kind of like a fun play on words based off the term numismatics. And it's a pretty obscure term, but basically what numismatics means is it's like the study and enthusiasm and like collecting of coins. Well, really, it's currency, hard currency, physical paper, money, and coins. So we thought that it was a really clever way of kind of like talking about who we are, right? And what NumisMe does is our core innovation is our patent pending technology that allows us through our mobile app, which is in development currently. It's not live yet, but it is a technology that allows our mobile app to help folks digitize their physical change from stores. So like when you go buy something at the cash register, right, and you go check out and you pay for your groceries or whatever it is, your clothes, right, your shoes, and they say it's like, 25 bucks, right? But you give them $30. Then what they would do is what? Give you $5 back into your hand, or maybe it's like $5 and some coins, right? And what we do is we digitize that change. We take that change and we allow the stores, our merchant partners, right, through the integrations that we have, we allow them to digitize that by scanning the app, right? And using the scanner at the checkout counter or the kiosk, the automated kiosk, it sends that change that instead of being physically handed to you into your hand and you put it into your pocket, what we do is we send that money electronically into the app. And from the app, it allows you to use that money, that cash, right, that electronic cash, to do whatever you want, to onboard into crypto. And, obviously, I think we would prefer it if you, onboarded, if you bought with your cash, bought Noom token, and went into our DeFi savings account. But it basically allows folks to be able to get into the world of crypto and really get into the world of DeFi without having to go through a bank account into a centralized exchange and then fund your MetaMask or your Coinbase wallet or your Trust wallet or any other Web3 wallet, right? And it allows them to get into crypto just using their physical money, right? Their physical dollars and their physical whatever it is, their quarters and dimes. And once they're in the app, what we offer is our flagship DeFi product, which is our DeFi savings account. So, the team has been working in the DeFi space and has experience with various other DeFi projects. And our core competency is DeFi, generating yield that really blows banks out of the water, the interest rates that you can get from banks. Like, we blow it out of the water, right? And the way we do that in DeFi is we basically make our entire process of generating yield, generating right interest on digital assets. The way we do it is all based on smart contracts. So we get rid of all that inefficiency that banks go through, and we get rid of all the greed that banks have, right? Because banks have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are working and that they have to pay to be able to basically generate interest on the bank's money, or really it's your money that you give to the bank. And then they have to pay the salaries of all the executives and so on and so forth, right? So so then basically that allows us to deliver much higher yield, and that is what allows us to bring that DeFi savings account into the mobile app, right? But I think I got a little bit ahead of myself. That's that's kind of who we are as far as like where the team comes from. I've been in crypto myself since early days, right? Like pre 2017, and really got into DeFi in 2019 during DeFi summer. And since then, I haven't ever looked back, right? I pulled the ripcord on my corporate career in Silicon Valley and decided to go fully into DeFi because I knew that this technology represented a significant change in the way we deal with money, in the same way that the internet represented a serious change in the way we deal with communications and just kind of like information sharing. DeFi represents that same thing, but for the way we do money. So along the way, right, we've been working with each other. We have various members of the core team that have been working on other projects together, and we kind of decided, hey, this is the new thing, and we're all just going to come here. Aaron, we met through an earlier version of NumisMe, and he was just so excited and so passionate that we're fortunate to be able to call him part of the core team. And obviously, if you guys are seeing any of his any of the tweets or any of the messages he puts out on TG or Discord, right? He's a star. He's a natural at that side of the game. But maybe I should let Aaron speak a little bit more about himself.
Yeah, so I'm Aaron. My nickname is Bayo. Fortunate, did you want to say something just to follow up real quick? You just saw you unmuted.
No, I was just going to introduce you in, yeah.
Or yeah. Okay,
Right.
so actually, I mean, I got into crypto around the Doge craze last year in like early spring. I didn't make any money on it. Like I wasn't in crypto at the time, but enough of my friends were getting some gains off of it and talking about it. And it was definitely, I mean, between Doge and Shiba and Floki that followed, I mean, what a season for meme coins, dude. And it really honestly, it pushed into mainstream. It just was another push from crypto into mainstream, just on the degen side, I guess you could call it, rather than like the DeFi side, like Mr. was talking about. So, I mean, before that, dude, I mean, honestly, like a lot of service jobs. I've always been a people person, fit in very well with that. So when I got into crypto, and also I like to research. So I was trying to learn a lot really fast to actually be able to participate in this industry and in these markets, and found some projects that I was like, oh, this is really cool. I got really involved, started doing moderator work and stuff like that. Just fell into it and writing and stuff like that. But I mean, hey, dude, like my very first project I poured my heart into, it was a slow rug. And when I found out, I exodused everybody out with me and sold as much as we could. And then, obviously the dev dumped on whoever didn't make it out. And it was rough. And so from there, I kind of strove to be a part of bigger and better projects with as much legitimacy that I could find. And that path has led me to NumisMe. And that's why when I first heard about it, was first introduced to it, I jumped at the opportunity to play a community lead role on this project. So that's kind of my background with it.
Awesome. Kind of similar to how I came in early spring, didn't really make much money on it, and just kind of sat in the background. Now you were chatting about the pay to be set up in your DeFi wallet app. Now in your app, or do you have some sort of educational system for people to basically learn how to buy the crypto? Because I went on the app and it said get Noom, and I was like, okay, let me do that, and it took me to the page where it's just like the Uniswap. Now, if I was just a new investor, I wouldn't know how to invest, and I think that would throw me off. What measures are you taking to ensure a smoother flight for these newer investors?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something we're actively working on, right? We do need to have better educational content, and we're working on that. It is a process. So we do plan to have more onboarding tool tips and stuff that'll guide folks through that Uniswap process, because it can be complicated, right? Totally agree. The thing is we're focused on currently is building the foundation of what's eventually going to power our mobile app, right? The way we deliver the ultra high yields from, the DeFi style yields is we are building our DeFi foundational DeFi products, right? And that's our vaults, that's our staking, everything like that. And that's where we're focused. So we've kind of lost sight of like making it super easy for just anybody to come in and use us. But to be clear, we have kind of two sides right now, and that's what makes it a little bit of a challenge, because we do have our more technical and more a little bit more complex to use DeFi products. But ultimately, we want to make sure that we're targeting the mainstream, right? The retail folks that have never touched crypto. And so while we've been focused on building the more complex side of things, I think we've been looking at the mobile app as where we get that super seamless kind of like a Venmo or a Cash App type of experience that's super easy to understand and use. We haven't really had the time or the resource to build that into the Web3, the app on app.numisme.io. But that is on the radar, right? We're really close to getting out kind of what we consider our core products. And now that we're there, that next phase is to really do things like UX cleanup, like make sure the user experience is better, make sure the education, the onboarding flow is there, and make sure that folks, know how to buy Noom, first of all, and then know how to use and our products and get them ready for that mobile app to go live down the road.
Yes, sir. And I think I can do you a great service when you have that little. You can have it on the website too. Just have like a little tutorial video, how to, and just have like some screenshots and click this button, click that button, do this, do that, and it could definitely gain some traction for you, I think. So let's talk about the chart here. You're sitting at $100 million market cap with about 1 mil in liquidity. What happened there?
So I don't know, what do you mean by what happened there? Like
he doesn't see it within, he doesn't
What we
see
like
it
to
within
see
Uniswap
is,
right now. It's just the token dilution.
yeah, it's a dilution.
Yeah, it's that thing has tripped me out since the beginning. It's just based on the supply that we've got in Uniswap right now, which is what is it, Mr. Like 0.3 or 0.4% right now, even after like reward dish outs.
Yeah. So basically, I get what you're saying. I thought you meant we're asking like if something bad had happened, but yeah, no, nothing bad has happened. The valuation, our market cap is based off of our fully diluted token supply, and our liquidity in the Uniswap pool is mostly protocol owned, right? So we did see the Uniswap LP with well over a mil. The thing is, though, Ethereum is kind of tanked, and we do track in terms of token price. We track Ethereum pretty well, and so with any downwards price action on Ethereum, we're going to see the token price fall. So we've been seeing both sides of the LP pool, the pair, go down in price. So that explains the million in liquidity. But that's kind of like, we think that's a pretty good place to be. It allows us to make sure that we have enough liquidity to, absorb sell pressure. And it is enough especially based off of our recent trading volume, to keep the price pretty stable. But it is also small enough where our tokenomics, right, our reflections model actually does make a difference. Right. So, the way we've architected this thing, it makes us a bit like, I hate to say these words because, nobody can guarantee this, but we have been fairly sell resistant, right? We see a good amount of sells, as any, DeFi project sees. But the way we use our reflections tokenomics is we charge a 9%, right, reflections tax on every transaction. Right. And the way that's broken down is we send 1% right, of 1 out of 9%, right? We send that into the LP. And what that represents is an organic buyback. So every time this happens, we carve off a little bit and we buy new on the open market, and we put that into the LP, and then we burn the LP token, so it's locked forever. That's forever liquidity that's in the pool, right? But what that also represents is an organic buyback, right? We buy on the open market to support the price, and that has been working really well to make us fairly sell resistant. And the rest of the taxes kind of break down to 4% going back to Noom holders, right? Or Noom stakers. If you have Noom, and whether you're holding it in your wallet or you go stake it to earn ETH, we distribute 4% to all of the Noom that's out there in the form of Noom, right? And then we send 3% into the marketing fund, and then another point to the development fund, right? To make sure that we can fund operations. And what that essentially does, because we collect that tax in ETH, right? It allows us to not have to sell the Noom token ourselves. Because, you know, I've been in DeFi for quite a while. I've been in DeFi since the beginning, right? So I've seen some things. And one thing that is common with pretty much every DeFi project out there is the single greatest source of sell pressure, the single greatest entity that dumps the token tends to be the project itself, right? And that creates kind of this environment of like Ponzi-nomics, where like in order to fund the project and continue operations, you have to make sure that you are driving more people into the project to buy than the project sells tokens, right? To free up cash to pay vendors, pay salaries, pay marketing costs, development costs, the list, the audits, the list goes on and on, right? So yeah, we're pretty proud of that. Like the Reflections tax model has been, you know, typically associated with kind of like meme coins, right? And kind of like pump and dump schemes. And we looked at it and we're like, yeah, that sucks. But there might be something here. And what we realized was we can actually use this model to become sustainable, right? We can use this to help us fund our operations without having to hurt the token price ourselves. We can't control what anybody else does with their Noom token, but what we can control is make sure that the project doesn't sell any Noom tokens, right? And so in that way, you know, we are supporting the value for all Noom holders. But yeah, so that's kind of like how the tokenomics kind of all fit into this. And eventually, right, when we're generating enough revenue just based off of our vault deposits, our merchant integrations with the future coming mobile app, and you know, all the revenue that we make from, say, things like project partnerships, right? Not retail partnerships, other crypto projects, other DeFi projects. That revenue, there's an inflection point where we're good, we're net positive, and we can turn off pretty much all taxes. We're considering always keeping that LP tax so that we can continue to grow the LP organically, and we can continue to have those organic buybacks on the open market. But yeah, most of the other taxes will go away after a certain time.
Awesome, and thank you for running me through that. Are you all able to take a salary or at least to pay through the development tax? Because people are always wondering if the developers are getting paid. The community manager or the community lead here, Aaron, are you all able to take a salary?
Yes, but to be clear, we do not use the dev fund or the marketing fund to pay salaries, right? Salaries come from our early investors, and we do have a good runway in terms of salary burn. So we do, you have to, right? One of the greatest challenges out there is not just acquiring talent, but retaining talent. And in that way, there's no way you can incentivize folks to continue to have that passion and continue to do that kind of top tier work without giving them, everybody needs money to pay bills and eat and pay rent, right? So yeah, for sure we pay salaries, we make sure our guys are taken care of, but they're not like crazy. We're not paying ourselves $1 million a year, right? We are basically paying just enough to make sure nobody needs to sell tokens. That is the goal, right? We do not sell tokens because we are not the source of sell pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody has their own, needs and requirements based on life. So life will come at you in different ways. Let's talk about the real world marketing and outreach that you plan on doing to get those mainstream people that you were talking about earlier. What avenues are you looking forward to taking in the future to get those mainstream people in the real world and, just going out there in the actual physical world saying, hey, this is a great buy. Check us out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, great question. And before I talk about kind of like what our real world marketing looks like, maybe just kind of like to cover off, we are about to light up a pretty big marketing campaign. But because we don't have the mobile app online right now, we are focused on building up our TVL. We are focused on generating revenue off of that. And so what that means is our first real big marketing push will be focused on DeFi crypto channels, right? So we're going to be talking to you guys. We're going to be talking to folks like you, using whether it's AMAs, sponsored content, influencers, that list goes on and on too, right? Banner, all that stuff. But what we want to eventually shift into is the world I come from, right? So I have a marketing background. I have a product background as well, but marketing from a performance standpoint, digital marketing, right? So, and event marketing and partner marketing. So from that perspective, what we're planning to do is everything from, yeah, sure, we'll do the same kind of like sponsored content. We'll get in newsletters. We'll do the AMA circuit to try to talk to those retail folks. But what's really going to help us and what's really going to drive that real world awareness is going to be the real world activations, right? So we're going to go to these conferences, set up the booths, right? Make sure that we get in front of as many potential partners as possible. We're going to go into our partner stores, right? And these are part of ongoing conversations with our merchant partners. Get into the stores and set up in-store, right, marketing, right? Whether it's like little cards next to the cashier, it's like end caps, like you see like at the end of each aisle, right? You have like products placed there and little kind of like signs and stuff. For us, it wouldn't be like any product that sits on the shelves, but it would be educational material, right? On like why you want to use NumisMe to digitize your loose change, right? And then we have plans for doing our own summits and conferences, make sure that people get awareness there, and then real world sponsorships, right? And make sure that we're able to get into the right kinds of events that align with our mission, right? Which is making DeFi easier to use and making it more accessible and create that more fair and kind of like just financial system.
Speaking of which, we've got that Cryptopia event coming up in just like a few days on September 13th.
Yeah, so one of the things we're doing is like kind of like, yeah, that's a great point, Aaron, is like we're kind of like warming those muscles up and doing these real world, conferences. And so, that's like a keynote kind of an opportunity, try to get our message out there. This particular event is not so much retail user focused as it is more industry focused. But it does help us flex those muscles, right? Help us build that muscle memory for when we do activate kind of that real world marketing.
Indeed. Gosh, I'm running a blank. I've been running so many blanks lately. Oh yeah.
Well, I should also mention TV ads. That's something that we're really excited to turn on. We have partnerships. Well, we have folks that we're working with that will get us onto cheap enough commercial spots, but also being able to do kind of like the talking head circuit, right? Go on to CNBC, go on to Bloomberg, go on to those shows and really, do that in front of real people and talking to real people. So that'll be kind of cool. Like seeing NumisMe in the actual news. Yeah, we can't wait for that.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like an interesting adventure that you have coming up for sure.
Yes, sir.
Now let's talk about your TVL. That's a typically known as a minor type deal in the crypto space where I'm from. Can you tell us a little bit about the TVL, and or is that like your liquidity, or how
Yeah. Yeah.
with
So,
TVL?
yeah, when I say TVL, sorry, for folks that may not be familiar with that term, that's total value locked. And what that is analogous to is basically assets under management. It basically just speaks to how much deposits we have in our vaults, right? So our vaults are basically yield generating staking opportunities. And what you do is you deposit you and stake your digital assets, right? You always retain ownership of them. We can't ever halt deposits. We never take ownership of your actual crypto. And that's something we are very passionate about and believe in, because if you look at the Celsiuses and the Voyagers and the 3ACs, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, right, with custodial solutions. So what we do is we take the deposits, we put them into the vault, we ask for permission first of all, we ask for permission to touch your crypto. Then we ask for permission to route your crypto, right, on your behalf. While you always retain ownership, we still need permission to touch and move it, right? So what we do is we move it into a yield strategy where we go and generate yield all up and down the DeFi stack through other protocols. And, we make sure that those protocols are really well capitalized. We make sure that the risk is mitigated. And we more than anything else, we make sure that the model, the economic model, right, not tokenomics, but like the way they actually do what they do to generate their own yield, we make sure that is as safe as possible, and we make sure that that is as sustainable as possible, right? And what we do is we put that into the vault, and every dollar in there counts towards our overall TVL, our overall amount of deposits. And that's how we generate revenue. So in that future where we have enough deposits to generate positive revenue, that's when we turn off the taxes. And so, what that looks like is we take 20% as a management fee. Essentially, we take 20% of the yield that's generated by all the crypto that's been deposited, and we bring that into the protocol, and that helps us. That's where we will eventually draw all our funding from, whether it's marketing or development. And when I say development, I'm not talking salary development. I'm talking infrastructure costs, audit costs, all the other technical costs associated with running a project, and there are a lot. That's how we intend through our vault deposits. That's how we intend to generate positive revenue.
Yeah, I would like to say we've got four audits in place. We've got a certain smart contract audit with the Noom contract. We've got 3 others in place already. Haichi, is that what they're called, Mister? And then Code Arena.
Yeah, and the Code Arena is the one we're most proud of, actually, because Code Arena, those guys are rock stars. Like their model is superior to every other audit model out there, in our opinion. And I think if you look at the Code Arena project, I think the way that their performance recently kind of like validates our opinion, right? Everybody seems to agree with us, because now, we were working with them on multiple different audits back when it was like, hey, you want to do this? Give us X amount of dollars and we'll get you in for next week. Now it's like, nope, you got to wait. And actually the cost is now like 5x what you guys paid before, right? And that's because they have so much demand, but that's because it works. So like, without getting too technical, and guys, like, I talk a lot. I tend to talk. So like, just shut me up if I'm talking about something, that's a little bit boring, but I think this is important.
We're trying to squeeze so much information into the time frame, for sure.
Yeah.
There's so much details we could expand upon on every point of this. Like, but yeah, fortunate. Let's what's burning? What's a question that's burning on your head right now?
I was just curious about the APRs and the fluctuation of them, and how you basically keep feeding in the new APIs that you were kind of talking about earlier. Mr.
Yes.
Mister?
So the way we generate that APR, right, is an APR is uncompounded. APY is compounded, right? That's your yearly compounded growth rate. So the way we generate that APR is we go and we use these other DeFi protocols to generate our base yield, right? And so what we have is our strategy APR. Our APR, our total APR, is broken into two chunks. One chunk is called our strategy APR, and the other chunk is called our rewards APR, right? So what we do is we go and get that strategy APR from other projects, other protocols, and we use that to grow your deposit size. Okay, so what we do is every once in a while we harvest the rewards, the yield generated on your assets with these other projects, and we sell those into ETH and then turn the ETH into the asset that you deposited, and we put that back into the vault on your behalf, right? And so in that way we grow your base, your principal deposit, and then we sprinkle Noom on top, right? And that's our rewards APR. And that is basically just icing on top of the cake. And that part is where we have full control of that, right? We don't have any control over the strategy APR, but what we do try to do is make sure that we target projects, we target protocols that are reliable in how they generate the yield and deliver the yield, and safe, so that there's no we mitigate the risk of any kind of like catastrophic loss, right? Because that's really important to us. We have 4 audits. We're about to light up a 5th audit, right? Security and safety of user funds is like, that's our chief mission, because none of this makes any difference if somebody loses money. That's not what we're trying to do. So the rates are variable. The strategy APR is variable, but what we can control is our rewards APR. And the way that works is we set a certain amount of tokens that go out per block, or really an easier way to think about it is how many tokens go out per day. And we set that. And as more people come in, right, and more people use the vaults, and the more people that take a piece of that rewards APR, it'll continue to go down, right? And every once in what we can do is increase the amount of tokens that go out after a certain amount of time. So right now the rates are pretty high. We beat, we're fairly competitive. We're at like the top tier in terms of the rates we deliver on the assets that we support. But there's no need to go out and go with like crazy high, like 800%, 1000%, 5000%, because that's not sustainable. And long term, that hurts the project, that hurts the token price. So what we're actually targeting long term is to bring our rates down so that we're something like maybe 10%, we offer 10% more, 10 points more in APR than our competitors can offer. And that's something we can control, right? So yeah, so all that to say, we auto compound, we grow your base deposit, and then we sprinkle the Noom on top. And what we're telling everyone is the best way to use your Noom is, instead of claiming and selling them for ETH one time, we're saying, hey, claim your Noom or buy Noom and go stake your Noom. Because what we do is we share the revenue that we generate to Noom stakers, and that is shared in the form of ETH. We don't share revenue in the form of Noom, because that just increases sell pressure and that hurts the token price. So we're sharing revenue in ETH, and that sets up a kind of like passive income stream. So rather than sell it for that however much ETH that one time, go stake your Noom, and maybe sure you might earn a little bit less ETH than you would have if you sold it, but you earn that right now we're targeting 2 weeks, right? So every 2 weeks you earn that ETH, right? So yeah, that's something we're really proud of. But I hope that answers your question on APR.
Yes, sir. It sure does. All right, and then do you have any other points that you want to go over that you have not touched on quite yet?
Yeah, actually. So, I just touched on our staking Noom to earn ETH model, right? And that's another thing that we put a lot of thought into, right? It's like, how do we make a DeFi? There's a joke out there, right? There are three things you don't ever ask. You don't ask a woman her age, you don't ask a man how much money they make, and you don't ask a DeFi project how they're sustainable. And it's funny, but to a large extent, it's been true for a while, right? Like it's not sustainable, man. And we thought that that's fundamentally going against the mission of DeFi and crypto. There's no way this stuff mainstreams without actual sustainability and a focus on revenue and treating your project as a business. And so, because that's how we're thinking through, the way we organize, we architected this whole thing. One of the things that we realized was, all these projects that give out pure rewards only in their native token, that just accelerates sell pressure. So what we do is we reward vault users with NUM token. We reward liquidity providers, LPers, with NUM token. But we reward NUM stakers with ETH. And that creates this incentive, right? That's aligned with the project's goals. And the incentive is, instead of selling your NUM rewards and tanking the price, go stake it to go earn ETH, right? And that's something that once we hit scale, will start to really, really shine, in our opinion. So yeah, we're saying, stake your NUM, earn ETH. And the other thing we wanted to talk about is we just launched our referral program. So not only can you earn for staking ETH, you can earn just by bringing us referrals in terms of deposits, right? And you don't even, all we need are the leads. We're just asking folks to sign up for the program, onboard with us into the referral partner program, and we will go talk to your leads and we will go close them for you. If we close them, we do all the work, but you get the credit for that lead, and we pay up to 1% on the deposit that you bring us. So for example, if it's like a $1 million deposit, and that's a pretty small check size for protocols and institutions that come in, who we're really targeting, right? Off $1 million, you make $10,000 essentially for every million you bring in, and that scales, right? For every 100,000, you make 1,000 essentially. But yeah, we're the referral partner program. That's a good way to earn money, man. Passive income for sure.
Awesome. And that was one of the questions that I was like losing my train of thought on, that I couldn't think of any questions at the moment. So yeah.
Oh yeah, no worries. I know, we talk about a lot of stuff, and that's because what we're doing is trying to make sure that we can help the retail user, the Joe Blow off the street, right? That doesn't know anything about crypto and certainly doesn't know anything about DeFi. But the only way we're going to be able to do that is to be able to have that foundation that's sustainable, that's reliable. And because we're building that right now, we're in this mode where we're kind of like talking about, ease of use and like mainstream adoption. But right now the stuff we have is complex. It is more complex to talk about, and it certainly takes a lot of time, right? So yeah, it is a lot. So it's our fault, man. It's not your fault. We have a lot of stuff to talk about.
All good, no worries. Now, you said you've had about 4 or 5 contract audits. Now, have you had somebody with like a blockchain, like a certified blockchain coder license to go comb through the contract?
Yeah, so that's essentially, various different kinds of audits. That's what I was kind of speaking to earlier. We have our more traditional audits, which we're not too big on. We do them because they add that extra layer of assurance that our contracts are tight, right? But really, what they do is they just go down a checklist, and they don't really do any like critical thinking on like, hey, if I was an attacker, if I wanted to exploit these guys, how would I do it? They don't think about it that way. The distributed approach that Code Arena uses is something we're super big on, because what they do is they loose their army of smart contract specialists, right? And they all have different specializations, whether it's from like code hygiene, gas optimization, right? Various kinds of security exploits, economic attacks, right? And they go and, release up to like, I don't know what they're up to now, but when we did it with them, they had like 200 people, right? And they go and they rip apart your code. And to give you an example, when we went through a centralized audit, like, a more traditional checklist audit, we found like 2 or 3 issues, right? 2 or 3 findings. Code Arena comes back with 180 findings. And sure, there are duplicates, so maybe it's really like just 100 or like 80 actionable findings. But think about that for a second. You're talking about like these guys, these tier 1 centralized audit firms that come back with like a handful of findings, whereas these other guys come through with 100 different, potential threats. That for us is gold. Because what we want is to make sure, no matter what the cost is, no matter what the time is and the hassle is, because rest assured, there's a ton of cost, a ton of time, and it's a lot of hassle to have to patch 80 findings, right? We think that is the right way, because that makes us stronger from a smart contract perspective. It makes our code stronger, but it also makes our team stronger, because every one of those findings is a learning point, right? It's like, hey, this dude that's been focused on this one particular aspect of smart contracts for maybe 3 years, right? Or maybe, that's about as long as anybody's been focused on smart contract security. But say a handful of years, yeah, we have something to learn from that dude, right? So let's learn it, let's patch our code, make it stronger, and then we will not make that mistake again, right? So yeah, we're super proud of just kind of like our audit approach. It is multi-layered.
Awesome. And I do have a few questions from the community here.
Yes.
They say, above all, I am interested in knowing opinion on what risks you think might affect the development of the project and endanger its viability.
Ooh, that's a big one. We spend a lot of time thinking about stuff like this. So we think the chief risk for us is going to be just outright bans on crypto, right? And we don't see that as being likely, but that risk is always going to be out there. If you look at other countries, we're a global team, but we're mostly based in the US. If you look at other countries, they've straight out banned crypto, right? And that represents a huge threat to us. But we do think that that's not a realistic threat in the US, but it will, if it does, ramp up and more countries start banning this stuff, it will affect our ability to launch in those markets. But we don't see that as a risk to our core market, which is the US. And we certainly don't think it's and this is a little bit of alpha, but we're looking at Dubai as a potential pilot market to test this, because it's much. Shit, should I have not? Okay, all right. But
No,
anyway,
I'm just so surprised because you almost never like give people goodies, bro. So
yeah, okay.
that just makes me
Maybe I should
stoked. I love it.
I'll apologize later. Whoever's listening to this from the team. Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we do see that as kind of like the biggest threat, is the outright banning of crypto. But we're seeing the regulatory environment is actually, it's not too bad in the US, but the regulatory environment in places, in other countries like the UAE and specifically Dubai, right? Much more friendly. So we can move faster and we can launch faster out there. So that's kind of why we're looking at it right now. But yeah, that's the chief risk. We don't see much other ecosystem risk. People think that like, hey, DeFi is going to go away. These projects are all going to fail. And to be real, a lot of projects will fail, right? But that's how you build a new industry. You have to experiment. You have to make sure that you go through what's not good to make sure that you're building what is good. And for us, we think that's a positive net.
I'd love to answer this question by Isnell in the group right here. They said, how does the team plan to evaluate the success of the project? Any indicators provide metrics on the efficiency? Member of the team
Oh,
bears a great responsibility for success or failure. Tell us about the roles in the team. Okay, I mean there's a lot of questions in there, but as I kind of want to just touch on the success of the project, and this brings it back to where we started um, with the initial innovation and what we have that patent pending on, and like that provisional patent's already obtained. We're just patent pending on the actual 20-year utility patent. That's just a process of going back and forth and making sure it's exactly in the format and the wording that the patents often, that they'll actually approve. And so it's not so much a question of if, it's just really just a question of when. It's a bureaucratic process like anything else that you would expect. Um, but yeah, so guys, I mean, really what we're working with here is we're working with a technology that will help in the inevitable, shift towards like a more cashless society. And instead of that, essentially, one of the reasons why we're here in crypto, we're hoping that that doesn't all get centralized. And we can help facilitate that process in a means that actually spreads that wealth, like he's talking about, through these DeFi savings accounts and these protocols, revenue sharing metrics and tactics, like that aren't really. I mean, they're available in traditional finance, but that game has been so rigged for so long that there's just nothing but scraps left at the bottom. And as far as guaranteeing the success, I mean, on the real world side of it, guys, I mean, when people start shopping in their day-to-day lives and have these alternatives on how they want to receive that currency back, that change back, and instead can put it into their phone, not have to worry about losing it, not have to worry about getting robbed for it, and not have to worry about spending it. I mean, that's my personal attraction to it, man. I burn cash in my pocket all day. Oh, I got $4 left after doing whatever I wanted to do. Cool. I'll just stop in this middle mini bar and get like a couple of drinks or something. Because what the hell do I want with $4? And it's like 30 cents. But if I did that every day that I went out and spent money, and at the end of a month, I'm like, oh, I have like $360 in my account. What do I want to do with it? Do I want to just put it back in my bank account? Do I want to use that as like a little peer-to-peer so I can send friends or family money when I need to? Or do I want to like invest it? Now we have this option to invest it. We can go in and use these services. And even if we don't want to, we can just hold the token and get reflections. So there's going to be all these people who've never experienced crypto, and they're going to have this option. And whether they take it or not, we'll see. But I guarantee you, just human nature and curiosity and the potential to actually grow that money. Like, first of all, they never lost any net wealth now. They retained it. They kept it all in that digital app, and now they could do something with it that grows it. I think that's going to attract a lot of people. And even if they do it just out of curiosity, I mean, can you imagine as the partnerships and the user base grow, how many people are just going to be buying new, just not even as investment, just out of curiosity, watching it grow, and then they go, oh, I get it. It makes sense. And then they start maybe fiddling around and checking out the DeFi products and learning more. This is a gateway into mass adoption that we've never ever seen, because nobody's been able to reach that retail experience to people who are the average Joe, direct customers, and just watch money magically turn into this digital form and then magically turn into crypto seamlessly. Couple of buttons. No central exchange needed. No KYC. Just simple.
Yes, sir. You gotta love the simplicity. There's a lot of questions rolling in. Do you plan on integrating any NFTs?
Actually, we're in talks with other NFT projects, right, to have a little bit of synergy with NFT projects. And one of the things that we're really focused on is building out our services to become kind of like the bank, the metaverse bank, right? So that folks can go into the metaverse, whether it's, on your computer screen or, VR, AR, or whatever, that they can actually use our products. But we currently don't have any plans to integrate NFT technology, right? ERC 722 in 721, sorry, into our protocol. That's just, we don't see, other than kind of like the trend and marketing potential there, we don't see it adding value to our core product mix, right? To basically the way we generate yield.
We give them out a lot though for like community giveaways and stuff, because we are like we have a lot of interest in the NFT space just on a personal level, especially like Mr. Poppy, our community manager. So he's always looking for NFTs that we can that are cool projects with cool communities that we can give NFTs to our community to, and just continue like forming some of those bonds in the space. And I mean that's another thing. I don't know if you guys caught it, but when he's talking about, you know, being kind of the bank for metaverses, I mean that's another advertising space that we should all be taking into account for what a lot of projects are going to be finding themselves on in the future. And so that's another part of like the marketing strategy on that realm of things too. So, and that doesn't
Yeah.
include just like standard, you know, standard crypto marketing as well. And a lot of that real world marketing, I mean, man, I can't wait for all that. But yeah, that's just all kind of, it's such a slow rollout to get to all of our DeFi products out and the app out as well. But the marketing is just going to roll out with it, and we're just going to continue the exposure right now. Like just so much word of mouth and so much information that we're trying to get out there, whether it be press releases or just in our own like Numis meetings that we do every week. We do progress updates all the time. So we're just, yeah, awareness, exposure. Got the Cryptopia. We do a lot of event stuff in the community. We have a poker tournament coming up on the 12th. We're going to do like a $500 I'm making the announcement too, so I'm just going to say it now. But yeah, $500 poker tournament, so like $200 to first prize in Noom. So yeah, I mean we're always looking for things we can do to just connect with people in the space and like have community events and talk to people. This is the time to do it. Anybody who's a real crypto enthusiast or a real industry person, those are the only people left in the space right now. You know, so this is the time to make friends, and this is the time to reach out. And when the rest of the people come in, you know, people are going to remember the projects that stood out to them in the bear times, and who, you know what I mean, and who has something that's actually going to really roll out in the next bull run with the kind of use case that the entire crypto and DeFi world needs right now.
Yeah. And
To
I
reach
think,
that next layer.
it's clear that we're in a bear market, right, guys? There's no denying that, and it makes it tough because this is when projects go quiet. This is when you start seeing projects start to fold, and just basically give up. But we see it as an opportunity because we do have the we have the funding, we have a runway, right? And what that allows us to do is build in this bear market. And if you look at all the biggest players out there, right? The biggest example is like an Aave, right? Aave is like the number 2 in terms of TVL, in terms of deposit value in DeFi, and they are without question a blue chip. They are the biggest of the big boys, right? They made their name, they made their product, they built during a bear market, and that gave them the ability to take advantage of the bull market when it kicked in. And look at where they are now, right? So we think that, us being able to build in this downtime is actually an opportunity for us. And, I did want to actually cover off just kind of on that previous question, just to add to everything that Aaron said, a couple key metrics that we're focused on in terms of determining success is engagement from a community standpoint, because at the heart of all this is community, right? We're doing this for you guys, but you guys are also, hopefully you guys are also engaged in supporting us. So, community engagement is a key metric of success on that side. On the protocol side, from a business perspective, the key metric to look at is our staking rate, which continues to go up because that protects the protocol, right? And it protects the value for all Noom holders, as well as our TVL, the number of dollars we have in our vaults, because that is what generates the chunk of our revenue for us.
Yeah, well, this is a very fun-filled, packed AMA. There's so many more questions that I could ask. You have a really supportive community from what it looks like, and you definitely got my interest. You can extend your reaches out into the Ethereum realm. Now, I was curious, do you plan on going out into the Binance Smart Chain world? Because if you can extend your services out to there, there's so much volume in the Binance Smart Chain. I know it's the leftover chain, but what are your thoughts on that?
No, not at all. We don't consider it a leftover chain. We think, we are supportive of all chains that I think add value to the entire ecosystem, which not all do, but Binance Smart Chain, right? They definitely do. Uh, for us, deploying on BSC is more of a long-term potential goal for us. We're more focused on our next, the other chains that we're going to be launching on. We're more focused on early, smaller ecosystems where we can get in early, make a name for ourselves. But that doesn't mean that we don't go into a Polygon, right? That's a huge ecosystem, and they got tons of TVL over there. Because one of the things that we do have a challenge on in front of us is awareness, right? So what we're looking to do is make a name for ourselves in a smaller space where it's less noisy and less crowded. But that doesn't mean that we don't go into bigger ecosystems, because that is also where yield opportunities are, right? And that's where a lot of users live. So it's this balance between number of users, the quality of the yield, and the quality of the projects on a given chain, but also, ecosystem size and the support we get from those chains as well, from whether it's a co-marketing support, or it's like getting their advice, right, on which projects we should be looking to work with. And that's what we spend a lot of time doing. We spend a lot of time talking to various chains, whether it's core team or the foundations, right, that are associated with different chains, or L1s and L2s, right. But yeah, we don't have immediate plans for BSC.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious. You were talking about offering services, doing the vaults on for different people, different projects, I should say. And if you were to be able to do that for, the Binance Smart Chain, there's a lot of volume there. So that's why
Yeah, there's tons of volume. And to be clear, like, look, if somebody comes to us as a potential partner and says, hey, we want to work with you guys, we need a bespoke vault, but we are only on BSC. And what we can do is we can actually, as long as the deal is structured in a way where we're not losing money on it, right? And one of the biggest ways to lose money is standing up a liquidity pool, right? And having to market, right? And get awareness. If it makes sense for us, and we can basically get marketing support and liquidity support, then we can launch on any chain, as long as they're Ethereum virtual machine, EVM compatible. We can launch anywhere, and we can launch pretty quickly on other chains. It just has to make sense, right? Because again, we are a business, we are revenue focused, and the only way we deliver yield reliably and sustainably long term is to make sure that we have a healthy balance sheet, that we're looking towards being revenue positive. So yeah, right now, current state, we would be losing money in the short to immediate term if we did go with a BSC. But hey, if the right partner comes along and says, hey, we want a BSC vault, we're down. Let's do it.
All right, let's get this crypto.
Let's get it.
Let's get this crypto.
Let's get it. All right. So we're coming up to the hour, and I think it's about time for some maybe closing remarks. Did you have any closing statements that you wanted to make at the end of the AMA, sir?
Yeah, no, I'll take it for sure. Closing statements for us is like, hey, we're here in the bear market. We're looking to build something that's sustainable, right? We want to make sure that yield is delivered reliably, and we want to make sure that everybody benefits. So, whether you're coming to use our vaults, or if you don't want to use our vaults, you just want to get some NUM and stake it so you can earn ETH, or maybe it's none of the above and you just want to be a referral partner and earn up to 1% on deposits, hey, we'd love to talk to you. Come into our Discord, our TG, our Twitter, wherever it is. You can find an application to get into our referral partner program at NumisMe.io. Just along the top edge of the screen, just hit the referral partner link, and fill out the form, and we'll hit you up. We'd love to talk to you. Let's share the wealth.
Awesome. And my closing statements are thank you so much, everyone, to tuning into another fun and exciting AMA here at Land of Crypto Calls. This is fortunate, and I had a blast with this one. Lots of great character came out from these guys. Aaron is a wonderful community lead. I've known this guy for many, many months. from another lounge, and Mr. You got some great character as well. I'm thankful that you all came in, and I'm gonna go ahead and close this video chat down. I got some shopping to do, so we're gonna get this forwarded right over to you, and we'll see you another day. Maybe come in for a follow-up sometime. We'll see you
Let's
then.
do it.